Hello. I thought I was ready. I'm looking at my my card. Sorry. How's it going? Okay. This is actually, I'm so glad I had this. Like whoever the genius was who made these. I'm so glad I still have them. All right. How's it going, everybody? Hi, Hannah. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Beverly. Hi, Aisha. Hi, Leslie. Welcome. Hi, Susan. Oh, yeah, no problem, Susan. Yeah, sorry about the lack of details. Hi, Elena. I was just thinking today, like, you know, I could have promoted this a lot more, but it's just been a lot of work. So you're cutting your, okay, cool, Christina, that's awesome. All right, you have some time. All right, so I'm making 2 bags today, and you can sew along with me. I'm going to be making a vinyl, solid vinyl one, so you know what the steps are with that. They're very similar for the two. And the vinyl one, you can choose to add the notions case on the outside, like this, right? Like this one here. So it has the notions case. And then you have the full boxy bag. This one's very old. And it's about this size. So when it's completely like this. But if you're using my free pattern for this, you just buy your first set of circular needles. Oh, nice. They had one. What'd you think of the fabric choices? There weren't very many, were there? I think that's the only thing. Yeah, let me know when your birthday is, Elaine. Maybe I'll make you one. It is a pattern I've thought about releasing, but it's really hard to sew. They have quite a few. Really? They don't have ones made by me, do they? Or do they have the Jimmy Beans ones? Hi, Hillary. Because I don't know where you are, but if you're... Your stuff is really popular in my shop. That's awesome, yeah. Which one's shop? Which is your shop? Did I sell to them? That's funny. No, the Jimmy Beans. Okay, that makes sense. Because there were people who, like we didn't do a lot of wholesale. It was just not feasible for us. We got a lot of flack for that, but it helped us keep in business. But there were a few stores that would say, oh, okay, I haven't sold to them, I don't think. But that would say that we would sew for them in a fabric they picked. So they would send us their fabric and we would cut and sew and then sell them that way. And there were some that made a lot. And I was like, how are they ever going to sell all these? But they did. So anyway, okay. So if you got my free pattern, it is this little guy here. Oh, it was last week. That's right. Oh, happy belated birthday, Elena. I love that we're both May birthdays. That's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats for another year around the sun. There's a lot of May babies. Okay. So this hopefully is linked in the description of this video. If not, it's just on my website. There's no hoops to jump through. And it is a single page pattern piece to make a boxy bag. Yours is next week, Hannah? That's awesome. I love it. Good morning, Chippy. Good morning. So this is the size of the sock box. So let me fluff it up a little bit so you can see. It's about, I want to say it's 9 inches. Yeah, so it's 9 inches long, and when it's finished, and almost 5 inches tall. All right. So this is what it looks like. You can carry it by the handle, right? This is not a new bag to the world at all. I do not claim to have designed this bag. I did not use anyone's pattern to make mine, though, just to be clear. And it's a bag we never, ever considered making because there were just so many in the world and plenty of really fantastic makers making them in fun fabrics. We didn't need to compete against that. Even though people were like, oh, it'd be so nice though if I could have one that matched all my other chicken boot stuff. But it just wasn't something we chose to go down that path. We had a huge line. But then I had the idea of making them in clear vinyl. And this was great. This was very affordable to make and sell this way, right? And so there was a sock box, a larger one called a nesting box, and then the project box is kind of in between, and it had the notions case on the outside. And they had the ribbon handle and the little tug at the back. We called this the butt. All right. And then we never made them in fabric, but my friend Maria is one of those amazing makers who made these. She makes them in fabric. So this is smaller than my sock box, but you know, fabric is nice too. It's soft, it's washable. Vinyl's washable, but you don't really need to, right? And I feel like these are just as fussy to sew, and they are more expensive because it's 2 layers of fabric usually, unless you use like a thick fabric and you don't mind the back side of your fabric showing on the inside. So I'm going to show you a fabric one that's lined, and then a vinyl one, and the optional notions case. So if you would like to make the free pattern that I have on my website, that's this size, the sock box size. It's called Boxy Bag, and it's in the shop all pattern or sewing patterns. Hi, Elizabeth. Oh, awesome, Amy. I'm glad. This is going to give you this size. This, if you print this out and you put it on the fold here and here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to orient you for that in just a second. I know that's really confusing having 2 fold lines. But if you would like to add the notions case on the outside, which is also a free pattern on my website, you need to make the box larger. And to do that, we're going to do a quick and dirty way of doing this. So I want you to print this out. I want you to fold it in half and draw a line right here. And then I want you to fold it in half, put it on your printer glass, and enlarge it 120%. Flip it, enlarge it 120%. Now I want you to tape those 2 together, and you're going to end up with this guy here. This is a little bigger, all right? This is 120%. Now, if you want it to be much easier to sew, it's really nice if you have a full pattern piece, right? So if we want to do that, let me show you what that looks like. I'm swimming in stuff here. So here is my full, yeah, you're not too late, Allie, never too late. Yeah, packing cubes. Oh gosh, so sorry, it's so bright. I've been so busy today. It always happens when you know you really want to play with a new toy, and my new computer is sitting right there. Why is it so dark? It's not dark in here. It's a beast. I'm so excited. It's gonna help. It's a new editing computer. It's huge. I cannot tell you how big this thing is. I can't wait to show it to you when it's all done. I got all the rest of the components yesterday, and I just need to now set it all up. But I had to work a lot in the fitting forum today. So I was like, dang it, I had 15 minutes of work in here yesterday. That should have told me that I was going to have a ton today. People get cracking before the weekend. They're like, okay, I want to get some help. So I was like, they know I have a new toy. Okay, so this is my project box pattern piece. There was a nicer one, trust me. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to orient you on where you're at. So on this piece, right? It doesn't matter if you're doing the small one or the big one, all right? So when I say that this is the opening edge here, this is the edge with the zipper, right? So you fold it like this, right? And you also fold it like this. So I don't want to zoom in my thing. So this is how it goes, like this, right? And so these 2 edges come together like this, and they form the zippered opening. And then these get folded down and all this sewn together at the end to create the box. So let me show you with a bag on top. Here we go, this one. So what we're looking at here, so if you would like to, if you're cutting in fabric on either of these, on the smaller one or the larger one, if you would like to place a cute motif on your bag, I always found this side here to be the best real estate. There's no seams through it, and you know, when you see it from the side, it looks really cute. And so that is this right here. And it's oriented like this, okay? Caveat. If you have a one-way print, you can put a seam right here, add seam allowance. So this fold line here, it can be a seam, and then you could have one over here, right? So now your bag will be right side up when it's sitting on the bag on either side. Okay, so if I have you oriented well. I remember when we first started sewing these, and I would get so lost in these cutouts, and my friend was like, get your head on straight here. Figure out where's what. And that is how I'm going to be doing a one-way fabric today. So let me show you. I've already pieced mine together. So I have this really big fabric print, right? So there's this gigantic cat here on this tiny little box, right? And the little guy is over here. And so when it's sewn, it's going to look like this with the zipper down the middle. But when it's in its boxy shape, it's going to look like this, like this. So their little faces are going to be up above, right? And then this guy too, his little face is going to be up above. So it's not ideal, but it works, right? So if you want to have fun with motifs and things like that, I just like to orient you. And on some of my patterns, I actually do a little picture on the printed pattern so you kind of know. But this was really a quick and dirty thing I put together a long time ago for Patreon. And I never went back and revisited it. It's nicer than my pattern piece, obviously. So, and then these notches here, I never had these notches. They're just to help you get oriented because they sew together. So see how those go together? And then this goes to here. So you sew the two V's together, right? And then you sew these together, the notches. See that? That's how it's oriented. So it's a very simple little box, but it's a little easy to get lost in the angles and things and where you're at. And it's fairly symmetrical. And the reason for that, if you start doing the math on it, is because this right here, this edge has seam allowance for a zipper. So when you take that off, it's 1/4 of an inch smaller, but you have the width of the zipper, right? You have this exposed zipper. And so that is why it really is a symmetrical piece. But if you were to fold this, because these all kind of match up together, you'll see a gap between the fold and where the zipper goes. So just to orient you a little further. Depends, I try to tickle different parts of your brain because all of us absorb the information differently, especially when we're talking about spatial things. So I just want to give you lots of different points of context there, all right? So if you have any questions about that, so 120% if you want the project box and you need the notions case pattern, which you don't have to change at all. And let me tell you about the materials. So let me just get some of this out of the way and I'll tell you what you need for each bag. And I have a cutting tip for cutting out these corners as well. This one goes here and here. And this one, I just had the zipper. Oh, here it is right here. This zipper right here. And then we have ribbon. We have a label. Okay, so if you want to do the project box, for the notions case, you're going to need the vinyl window, and you're going to need just one of the fabric pieces, and that's it as far as materials go. And then you need a zipper, a 10-inch long zipper for this, and you need binding to go to the top edge of the vinyl and around the perimeter here. And we're going to sew that step first when we get to this. So that's just the project box for the notions case for the project box. Now, if you wanted to do this vinyl bag without the notions case, these are separate. You're going to need a whole vinyl bag, right? And then you're going to need a long zipper to match the length here. And the zipper length is 18 inches. Really? Yeah, 18 inches. That works, 18 inches. So you need a slider, right? So if you don't have a zipper by the art, you think you do the wrong way. Yeah, it's so easy to do, Christine. I kept doing that too. I was like, why isn't this scaling right? I did the same thing to myself. All right, and so for the other parts of this bag, you are going to need if you want, a little piece of ribbon for the butt here to hold on to while you zip it open and closed, and a ribbon for the handle. Or light webbing, you need a 3-inch ribbon for that, or 2 1/4 inch ribbon, and a 10-inch ribbon. It's actually 10.5-inch piece of ribbon, because when we bind it, it's going to draw it up. So if you aren't going to bind your ribbon like I do here, you're just going to leave it like a simple ribbon, which is fine, or a piece of webbing. You just need a 10-inch piece, all right? And that's for the project box. So again, 18-inch zipper. If you want the Notions case, you need a 10-inch zipper. You need a 10-inch ribbon for the handle, a 2 1/4-inch ribbon for the pole at the end, the butt, a label if you want, and you need binding, and you need your vinyl. And then for the Notions case part, you need 1 piece of fabric, and you need the vinyl window. And we already told you about the zipper. Hi, Sylvia. All right, so that's your project box pieces. And I'm going to show you how to cut these interior corners. I left one for you because I use a rotary knife, and I know how weird they can be to cut. All right, so now if you're going to do a fabric one, you need, if you want to line it as well, you're going to need an outer and a lining. And I've seamed mine together only because I have the one-way print. Yeah, you can make a handle out of the one-way, out of the main fabric, absolutely. And we talked about that the other day about making the handle out of fabric. You need to be. I'm using 1-inch wide ribbon, by the way. I didn't tell you it was 1-inch wide, but anything in that realm. But it's up to you for your handle and the little end, right? So you can make your handle using a 4-inch wide piece of fabric, 4 inches by 10.5 inches or 10 inches long, and then fold and stitch it. So yeah, that works. Great, Chippy. That, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So then on this one, we need I have a ruler here, but you're going to need I think it's a 14-inch zipper for the opening. And you need a 10-inch ribbon still. We don't really change the handle size because people's hands don't change. We kind of played around with this. So if you wanted a really long handle, or maybe you want to hang it up on a hook that's kind of deep, so it needs to get under the hook, then you can make it longer, right? And then you need the 2 1/4-inch piece of ribbon as well for the butt. A label if you want. So the only prep I've done here is I made my outer piece whole just in case no one else is doing a one-way print like I am. And I've also put my lining to my outer wrong sides together, and I finished them together here along this edge, with my serger hated doing. It's all baggy, but I was kind of in a rush, and it's black. So I finished this edge together, and that's it. And you need binding for this as well. You don't get away with no binding. Yeah, I probably could show you a way to sew this without binding. You'd still have to finish some seams though. So, all right. How are we doing? You guys ready? I know a few of you are sewing with me today. This is the binding I chose to put with my cat print. It doesn't make sense to you, but it is what the fabric is, the binding we picked to go with it. It is fish. They're sardines. These metallic gold sardines. This is from the Porto collection by Sarah Watts. And I still have some pieces of it, and I covet it. I love it. And I tried to pick fabrics that I think people will want if I just sell these later. So, and I'm going to do blue ribbon, which isn't very stiff like my black stuff. All right, so I'm going to start with the fabric one just to kind of get my legs under me because I haven't sewn one of these in years. I'm a little nervous about it. So for this ribbon end, you could bind it if you want. I think that we ended up binding these later. Did we? Maybe not. No, we didn't. We only bound the handle. So what I do here, we always had a binding machine. You know, living that binding machine life was basking in the sun of all things sewing. I'm cutting this down to 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to leave off a little bit of binding on either side. I'm just going to cut like a piece here, a 4-inch long piece. And I'm going to put my tape in the middle, my ribbon here. I don't think I've ever done this by hand before, so this will be fun. So I'm just going to get all my pieces ready to go to be able to sew together. And then I'm going to turn it to the right side, fuss around with edge stitching it. I'm not going to be that precious about this because so much of it won't show. And maybe I could bring in the camera too. We're just trying to finish the edge of the ribbon, give it a nice little touch. I always like my things to be really finished. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. What happened? Oh, okay. I'm like, what? It was just lagging, I think. Is that good? Would you like it closer? I kind of ruined my tabletop during the fitting week with Sharpie. I gotta clean it. Okay, so now I have my little zipper end, and so now we'll do the handle. And so I just put some binding on my ribbon. You don't have to do this. It just makes the ribbon a little bit more to grab. You know, it gives it some substance, right? You know, I can't get rid of this squeak on this machine. It constantly sounds like it's winding a bobbin, and it's not, and nothing is moving over there. And it doesn't sound like it's coming from over there. It just has that same kind of squeaky sound. All right, so I'm gonna put both my pieces on here. And I'm just sewing it right sides together, 1/4 inch seam allowance. My binding is 1 3/8 inch wide, 35 millimeters. I'm not really pulling it either because I don't really want the handle to get like drawn up, but it does make it a little easier to bind if you do. So, and if I need to slow down or something, or you want me to explain something, just tell me. I imagine most people won't be binding their handles like I am, but I just wanted to show how I do it just in case you want it to look like that. So I just put the binding. I'm not even telling you how to bind, sorry. I'm just telling you to bind. There we have one side done. So if I keep my stitching now, right, so I have this right sides together, and if I fold this over here, and I put that fold just past that stitch line there, and then when I sew, if I keep my needle to the right of the stitch line under there, it will land on the binding here. Okay, Elena, have a good one. It doesn't matter if it does land on the other side, because really this is going to be the side that shows. And my ribbon always gets kind of rumply looking. Can you see it has kind of a bumpy texture in there? I wouldn't combat that. You know, the grosgrain ribbon with all the ridges in it, it's going to do that, plus the binding's going to draw it up a little bit. So now I have a handle, and it has a lot more substance compared to how it did before. And so we have these two pieces. And we're going to do our zipper next, right? I can't remember. Where does this go? Where does the label go? This was probably a prototype. Does this one have a label? See, this is like, I hate it when I don't know. It's very likely this one was a second because we forgot to put the label on it. And then now I don't know where the label goes either. Where should I put this? Maybe I'll just put it on the inside. I don't know. Maybe I just won't put a label on it. I could put it maybe under here. Would that be weird? That could work. We'll try it. I don't know why we didn't ever do that. There must be a reason. We thought of a lot of things. Okay, so I can pull my zipper apart. Is anyone using zipper by the yard? If you're not, you don't have to. You can just sew it right sides together like this, right? So it's right sides together. If your zipper tape is narrower than mine, then you're going to probably need a zipper foot. And you also might find that when we go to sew the bag together, it may be off a little bit if your zipper is narrower. I'm just trying to make sure the serging doesn't show. See, it did it did in a couple places. So let's resew this from this side. That's a pet peeve. There we go. There we go. Now, if you're doing zipper by the yard, you're going to need to make sure that you line this up straight across, or any kind of zipper that's too long. So what I do is I will lay this on here and I make sure that these are lining up straight across, you know, like that. And then that way I know I won't accidentally get it wonky by like shifting it like this. Like say I put this on here like that, it would be torqued a little bit. We want these to be lined up perfectly right here at the top, straight across from one another. I was really skint on fabric, so this is my selvage edge sticking out. That's why it looks fuzzy. Probably could have top stitched that, but we'll do that in a second. I'm kind of pulling on this to make sure that this side doesn't like creep in there, you know, kind of blump into the seam. There we go. Now, what I can do is, I'm trying to decide if I want to top stitch this or not. Yeah, we could top stitch this. Now, because I have zipper by the yard, I can just pull this apart. If you don't, you could top stitch it on the first pass, and then you're going to have to struggle on one of them, you know, like sit here and go inside the bag a little bit. So I'll struggle with you. I won't cheat and do it the easy way, because it would have been really easy to just use the feature of zipper by the yard where I can just pull it apart, right? And I wouldn't have to do this part. So I'm just constantly pulling it apart. Just to focus on the inch in front of you. I know it feels terrible in some ways, but you're almost there. And then I pull it back out the way I went in. There we go. So we have one done, right? And then now we'll do this side. Oops, there goes my slider. All right. Okay, so I need to put my slider on. I'm so nervous I'm going to do this wrong. I need a pair of scissors. You know, I stole a pair of scissors for my home machine, and it's kind of a bummer. I need another pair of those. I don't want to buy another pair of scissors. Okay, I think we need to add our tail on, this guy right here. So you need to pick which side is going to be the top of your bag and the bottom of your bag right now. This right here, no, this is just fabric. This is just the cotton linen lightweight canvas and then a heavy canvas. So this right here, this little guy here, we're going to cut this down, and I usually leave about half the width of the ribbon sticking out. So I don't know how wide your ribbon is, but mine's 1 inch. And then this way these just meet back here like that. We can trim one of these a little more. It just evens out the thickness of the whole thing, right? And then you need to put that right across your zipper. And this one's about 1 inch up from the bottom there. So what I have found with these, in fact, this is one big, huge, colossal mistake we made at one point, where I think I told you guys I did a huge subscription box program. We did 1,000 of these in vinyl. This little guy right here. We did 1,000 of these in a binding that they chose. And we shipped them in something like 300 increments. They were like, can you just ship them like in 300 increments? And we did. The last 250, for some weird reason, we accidentally sewed this little guy here up here. Like it was like an inch above this seam, not an inch below this cut edge here. You know what we had to do? We had to take all those off and fix them. So definitely didn't make any money on that. But we never made that mistake again. And the reason we had to do that is because the bag doesn't open large enough. You want to put it lower down here. You just need something to grab onto, and it's kind of a nice way to stop your zipper. How do you record two things at once? It's great. How do I record two things at once? What do you mean? You mean how do I do picture in picture? Because I'm a wizard. I think I'll do this so that maybe the label ends above the seam here. So I'm going to put mine a little high, like right here. Maybe I'll stick it in here. It's kind of funny. I've never done a label like this before. And welcome, Ryan. And I go straight across the stitching we already sewed right there. I'm going to go straight across that too. So we do two rows. I'm going slow because it is kind of thick. There we go. I forgot the zipper. I forgot the slider. I forgot the slider. Shoot dang! You guys screaming at me? Not so much a wizard, am I? I really haven't sewn this in so long. Okay. I gotta put my slider on. You worried? Yeah. Nope, I can't put it on the other end because I want it, because, let me concentrate. Because if I put it on at this end, it would have been pointing this way. And so this right here would have been moot. Like there would have been no reason to have this. It would have been at the top. Usually we use this to kind of help us pull open and pull close the zipper. So I'm still a little worried I'm going to do this wrong, but we'll see, right? See, it gives you a chance to get ahead of me, right? I'm getting rid of I can still see I have threads here, so I just want to get rid of them all and not immortalize them. I have so much music stuck in my head lately. Usually that's a sign I'm like kind of like juggling a lot, but I think it's just because it's good music. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? All right, let's do that again. Just in all transparency, I'm not the one who sewed these. I'm the one who taught how to sew these. And then they made it better. All right, so now we have our slider on there, right? Okay, so now we can, so if your zipper, I highly recommend, it happens to bigger houses. That's actually a really good saying. I love that. Yep, exactly. If you are at this point, right, and so your zipper is zipped up, no matter what style zipper you have, this is kind of important. And here I'll sew across my end just in case you're using a continuous zipper. I just want to remind you to secure this just in case. I kind of am aware. It's like this little loose end in my head, but no matter what kind of zipper you have, I want you to poke it open a little bit, just a little bit. like this. The reason you need to do this is because if, when we sew our whole bag together, if you can't open it from this side, and you can just test your zipper right now, like, can you get this open from the back? If you can't, then you will have to remove it, and this happens to people sometimes. So, all right, so now we're going to just sew our bag together. We're ready to assemble the bag. So we're going to sew these two together, and I'm going to bind them. Hopefully they're matching, but you can see, look at mine's not. See how this is sticking out here on the sides here? And that's just probably because I scaled up and it's not perfectly accurate. So we can fix that in a second. So just center it if it's off. See how it's centered? All right, and then I'm going to bind mine. If you have a zipper that you can't sew through, do you remember the tip I gave you guys about putting ribbon at the end of the zipper, kind of framing the zipper? You can do that, and in that way, right here, you're not sewing through your zipper if that makes you nervous, or your machine hates it, or it's a brass zipper, right? I'm not doing that one right now. This is just the small one. Terry, I need scissors. I need like proper scissors. Proper cutting scissors, not little thread snips. Here they are. Yeah, so I do the notions case first when I do that one though. So yeah, you'll slow down. Are you doing the project box then? We can do both sides if we want at the same time. I have a lot to keep track of here. See how my selvage is showing? I really just wanted this fabric, so. I'm kind of surprised it's this much off. I thought it would be a little off though, but not that much. All right, so I'm gonna take a little gander in here and make sure that I don't have any of that selvage showing. That looks fine. And I want to make sure that my stitching down here didn't show. Okay, perfect. All right, and then I'm going to trim this down because I had to trim off that selvage. You can't be too willy-nilly about these seam allowances like I'm being, because anytime you change this, these two need to sew to one another. Like we're about to go like this, right? So yeah, and I'm going to show you how to fix some of the issues that happen when those don't match up, because that's something we got really good at. Yeah, the binding is nice. And one thing I'm going to do today is, we never made fabric ones, but we still bound some of the seams on the inside. I'll show you which ones we did. No one's going to see inside here, by the way, so don't worry about your binding too much. Just get it done. And I'm going to show you one thing you're going to love. I'm not going to make you do that fussy folding thing on this. I'm sure you're relieved. This is a little too wide of a seam allowance. I'm going to trim it down a tiny bit more. After this, we only have the corners to sew, and we're done. It's a pretty quick little bag, right? I already have this on here, yeah. So now we're going to pull it to the side and sew it. And the reason we're not going to do that fussy folding thing is because of my good friend Maria. And I'm going to show you what she inspired me on these bags. I never got to do it because we didn't sew them in fabric. So one little secret about her bags, because you know, even if you're sewing besties with someone, you still do this the minute they give you something. You still turn it inside out and look. And she did so many things that I was so jealous of. She's a very, very good sewist. She's oh my gosh, she's from Ecuador, right? I think. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting this wrong. I might be getting this wrong. I feel bad. Anyway, and so she had really great resources for getting beautiful zippers with nice pulls on them. They're all really different. She always had really fun extras, but this, I was very jealous of her that she lined everything in muslin, like awesome. And look at her binding. She just trimmed it. That's raw right there, raw. So she bound it and then just clipped it off, clip, clip. And when this is turned inside the bag, look, this is the corner, right? So this is the end. Here's the zipper coming down. This is the seam we just bound right here. So when this is pushed right side out, those little corners, that's them right there. They're fine. They're totally fine. And bias does not unravel or fray. You can see a little bit in there, but this is old. Like, I've had this a long time. And I when I saw that, she was so like, oh no, you're going to tell me I can't do that. I'm like, no, you're a genius for doing that. And she was like, really? So I loved that she did that. And she sewed her binding on like I am now. She doesn't have a binding attachment. But if she had, she could have just been going zip, zip with her binding attachment. Clip, clip. So yeah, I was always really jealous of her for that. So we're going to do that too. So now we just need to, remember, this is your last chance to make sure you can open your bag from your zipper. If you haven't checked, go through this hole, make sure you have a little opening so you can turn your bag. So, all right, so now we're just going to center this on itself. And see how off mine is, how it's sticking up? That's okay. So I just want you to center this and make sure it's nice here. Right, Amy? Exactly. Yeah, there's a foot for that, exactly. We're going to push this seam down because the zipper kind of forces it to do that. And we can just trim all that off right there. It'll be fine. Just like this. Don't try and make it match. Look, it matches now. It'll be the same over here. Maybe a little different. I'm not very good at sewing these, so look at that. This one's even weirder. So what I try to do is not get it too wonky. So, you know, if you want, you could pin this. We'll pin it. Just to kind of get it in the spot so that we can kind of see, okay, nothing's looking too wonky there. And then we can trim this one here. This one I think just hung off the edge there. Who knows why? It could be the seam allowance that I used to sew it together on the bottom of the bag. I didn't do a very good job or something. And then the same with over here. Do these 4 guys here. Now the one thing you don't want is for this fabric, the outer fabric, to have a tuck in it. So just finesse it a little bit, you know, kind of smooth it out and make sure. And see, so like say you have this going on like that. All right, you see that? This is only a fabric handling issue. So I want you to pull up right here and let this one go down. So I'm just evenly distributing it like that. And these are just things that you kind of figure out and your hands start doing naturally the more you sew some of these things, and you realize, okay, I know this won't negatively affect the overall thing. Like what's going to happen with this is that this right here was the, not necessarily. So this side here, if you were to measure from this point all along here to this point here, that was the original length of this seam. And this side's too short. So now we're going to trim it to match. And it's probably going to be right back where it needs to be. And we're just kind of forcing the issue. That's fitting finesse. Yeah. See, fitting for bags. So I'm just going to trim it down. We would do this with the binding. We wouldn't even trim it first. In the vinyl, it's a little easier because it's only a single layer that you're dealing with. And the binding is just easier to manage that way. But it's less malleable. Vinyl is so much more static. Okay, I didn't get this one right because I held it funny. But. So yeah, I know this feels kind of weird and like bad, and this is not ideal. You would never do this like on a continued basis in production. You'd stop and fix your pattern eventually, and it's usually after a production run. You know, Rayanne would tell me, hey, there's an issue with this pattern. Every time I do this, I have to trim this little thing off. And then she would just give me the trimmed bit and show me where on the bag it was, and then I would just find it and fix it. And sometimes, you know, you visit the pattern and you're like, the pattern's perfect. You know, what's happening in the process to make this seam no longer match up. And usually it's just something that, you know, like, you know, who knows, maybe the zippers came in a little bit narrower. Maybe someone was more aggressive with seam allowance, or in Rayanne's case, she was so good at sewing at really tiny seam allowances, like so good at it. You know, maybe she just wasn't using enough, or maybe the pattern just wasn't correct, you know. Oh my gosh, my handle, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank goodness there's bag makers in the chat to remind me how to sew these things. Holy, I don't know why I'm giving the tutorial. Yeah, and the other thing with, like, when you sew with someone else, like me and Rayanne sewing, I'm a puller. She was a lot more accurate than I was. So I would make the pattern and it would be perfect. I'm not bragging, it just was, right? And then she would sew it, it was fine. And every time I sew it, I'm like, oh, how come I always have to trim this on the end? I'm gonna fix that. And then she'd be like, no, 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 it's perfect. Don't fix it, don't fix it. And then I realized it's because I'm a puller when I sew. She was just a lot more accurate than I was. All right, where's our handle? Here it is, it's just blending in. Okay, here's our handle. And we're at the end, not this end, right? You're at this end here, okay? And you're just gonna slip it into this bit here. Thank you so much for reminding me. Just trying to get it between my layers here. And you're just going to straddle it over the seam like this. Would have been kind of a bummer to not have the handle. Perfect. If you want to make this a little easier, you could just sew across this and just make sure it's a really skinny seam allowance and that your ribbon is perpendicular to this edge, just to hold it in place or something, you know. We would never do that in vinyl, but in this, you could do this on the fabric. Yeah, you guys are saving me here. I knew I needed to, like, get my feet under me with this one. I don't think it's gonna be enough, but we're trying here, we're trying. So make sure it's at a perpendicular angle to the seam. You don't want your handle wonky. There it is in there, okay? Now they're ready to bind. So now we'll do it Maria's style, where we won't do the fancy folding at the end. And we're just gonna bind all these 4 seams, and then we're done. So I'm gonna put on my binding first to each of these. Did I forget anything else, Tanya? Like, I feel like this has been kind of simple. God, I hope not. Oh, I brought my travel bag to show you at the end of the stream. Yeah, right, Allie? I know, huh? I think that's why I say, like, even though some of the biggest mistakes we made, like that one with the silly ribbon moving on the box there and having to redo those, we never made that mistake again. You know? And it was kind of a bummer because, like, I was never the kind of, like, boss that would be mad that there would be a mistake, because, man, I had made so many mistakes. Obviously, I still make them, right? I hated having to tell them that there was a mistake. And I still paid to fix it. I think there was only one time where Rayanne was like, you're not paying me to fix this. I'm going to do this on my own time. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue with that. You know, but I still paid them, even though they made the error, you know, like, still my product. But yeah, we you know, sometimes you lose money. Okay, this one I didn't get very well. I think that was that weird last one I cut. All right, so now trim up your seam allowance. Make sure none of this, like, stuff sticking past, because we're going to bind it. See how the little bit of my handle there. Now, this is a really good time before you do your next final binding step to check to make sure you got all of your layers of fabric in the seam. Like, I can see that little layer right there is barely caught, so I should probably make sure And don't be shy about it. Like, don't be Saremy and be like, it'll be fine, because you want it to be fine. It's just the whole like recycling thing for me. Just because you want it to be recyclable, putting it in the recycling bin doesn't make it recyclable, right? So check the seam, gosh darn it, before you do the next step, because guess what? If you have to fix it after this, you're going to be bummed, and I warned you. All right, I warned you. So just make sure you caught all your layers of fabric, and when you're doing the lined ones, you want to make sure. I can't believe I caught mine, honestly. All right, and now we're just going to fold these. Oh, I don't think I trimmed this one yet. Oh, I'm really glad we didn't do this. This is like, oh, I hate cutting this. I used canvas to give my bag some like oomph, you know, some body to it. I did experiments with using stiffeners and stabilizers, and they were just overkill. And that's one of the things I really liked about the vinyl. All right, so let's just zhuzh this bag up a little bit. And then now we can start folding away pieces of it. So I'm just gonna bind it and leave the end raw. But I will back stitch now. If you notice, sometimes I wasn't. Using my awl. No one will see this. You could even zigzag or overlock these seams. Oh, I'm scared to cut these like she does, but I'm gonna do it. I'm not cutting my back stitch off. I'm just cutting off the end there in line like that, right? That feels so naughty. I love her. Maria is like, this is like an ode to Maria. Me and Ram both just loved her. Like, I would say, Maria, I have this idea. And this is how I pictured Maria. Maria is one of the hardest working people I know. She gets a lot of stuff done, like a lot. And I appreciate this because I feel like we're kind of two birds of a feather that way. But I would sometimes just message her out of the blue and be like, Maria, I have an idea. And then this is how I would picture Maria, just laying on the couch, getting a text going, show me what to do. And then I'm not kidding you. This is one of the busiest people I know. By the end of the day, she'd be texting me a picture of a prototype of what I had in mind because she had a wood burner. Wait, what? What happened? Oh, and like she did a lot of laser cutting and wood burning, and so I'd be like, I have this idea. I want to make a blah blah blah. Can your machine do this? And this is like the sketch I had, and blah blah blah. And she would be like, I don't know if we can do that. She'd always say that, and then by the end of the day, she'd have a perfect replica of what I was talking about. Okay, last one. Can you see one of the huge reasons why I hate sewing with canvas? You can see it. Can you see it? Look at all the freaking threads. I'm like, sheesh. All right. I'm like, oh, holy, that's a lot of threads. Canvas, man, it's so sticky. All right, make sure you trim everything, like your threads in here now, because you don't want to overturn this again. And let's just see. You know what's fun is that this fabric, when I saw it, I was like, we have to have that. I don't know how we're going to use it because it's so huge, but we have to have it. And we named it Big Kitty because my cat Haku, who is named for this little boy from an anime movie, Haku, and he was a big cat, big white cat, and we called him Big Kitty as a nickname. And he just passed away on Monday. So I felt like when I saw this, I was like, oh, we need a Big Kitty bag. Look at this, is so cute. Look at this. It didn't get the placement over here very good. I really struggled to get a second kitty there. I wish I would have had a fabric enough to just put one in the middle, right? Yeah, I have a lint roller, but I'm on my last paper. You just finished using noise. Yeah, Sylvia knew the fuzz. Yeah. The angle cut looks good, doesn't it? And look at that, nobody knows. I think that Look at my angles are a little off. I'm not very good at sewing these, am I? Yeah, let's just get rid of that because nobody will know. So cute. All right, let's do the vinyl one now. I've never used blue ribbon either, and it really picks it up nicely. I love that. I'm so glad I had that in the drawer. I had this ribbon in there from a project with Marie, actually. Okay, there we go. Got our butt, got our handle, zipper. Canvas is nice. And then if you need to fold these like your person who sells, this is how I did this. Yeah, oh, you know what? That did work out, didn't it? I'm kind of surprised. As long as it didn't get caught in there, I was a little worried about that. But my friend Brooke taught me this. So you push them in like this. So from the top, you push the zipper down like this and then connect these two. And then you do the same thing at the bottom like this. And now it's flat. This is how you ship them, and you can fold them like this to ship. Your new job. I know, animal fabrics. I had a lot of cat fabrics too. Okay, so to make the project box, we need our vinyl, and let me get my other binding here. And I'm going to use, I think, a red ribbon. I think that'll work. Didn't I already cut this? This is the only yarn I bought when I was in Iceland. Can you believe that? It's in one of these bags here. The cheapest thing you can buy in Iceland is fish or yarn. I tell this to everybody, and this is all I bought. And black licorice is not bad either. All right, so I didn't cut these already. Okay, let's cut my ribbon. So I think I need, if you're joining us late, let's say I need a 10-inch and 2 1/4 inch piece of ribbon for the handle. If you're looking, someone asked me yesterday in the comments, or maybe the day before, where I get this vinyl. Just search for it. So with the restoring, it's a long way to haul things. And I made this mistake in New Zealand where I bought so much yarn, Elizabeth. Holy, I know, right? It's so expensive, but it really, and it's beautiful, but it is a little prickly. But yeah. I also got a first edition Icelandic translation of Harry Potter there. And it's the craziest looking book, and it's fully legit. Just totally randomly and lucky. I have a bunch of foreign language versions, and I forgot about that till I was just looking at the Icelandic. Okay, so you need the vinyl window. So if you're on the project box, you're just joining me. Oh, let me tell you more about the vinyl. So the vinyl I get is 12 gauge matte or frosted. Those are the two terms I see being used for the not crystal clear. I really like the non-glare. Non-glare is another version. 10 inch or 10 1/2. 10 1/2 inches if you're binding it, Christina, but you just need a 10-inch piece, but the binding draws it up and makes it 10 inches. You can do whatever you want though. It's just that they get kind of weird when they're super long and loopy. That's all. So, all right, so you need your vinyl window. Are you talking about the zipper though, Christina, or the ribbon? 10-inch zipper. Just say 10 and 10, it's fine. And you need an 18-inch zipper, I think. Right? Yeah, something like an 18-inch zipper for the opening. You need the notions case, one fabric piece, a vinyl window, a 10-inch zipper. If you're doing the outer notions case. And then for the box, you need 10 1/2 inch piece of ribbon. If you're going to bind it, and it'll draw up a little bit, but you just need a 10-inch finished piece of something for a handle, or webbing. Webbing's fine. Or you can make a handle out of fabric. 2 1/4 inch piece if you want the little butt end. 18-inch zipper and then the vinyl box here. And then if you're using my pattern, you're going to fold it in half here and draw a line, and then fold it. Then put this on your printer glass face down and enlarge it 120% on this side and on this side. And then tape them together here to get your larger pattern piece. Wait. Yeah, this is it. It didn't look bigger. So then you have a bigger pattern piece to make the project box. And you need it bigger only because you want to fit the notions case in there. That's all. Or if you want a bigger box, that's fine too. And it scales up fairly accurately doing that. You can't just scale things up and it works all the time. Good morning, Sylvia. All right. So I have bound my vinyl. I'm going to attach my zipper. So if you're doing the project box version, this is the step for the little notions case on the outside. We'll get it ready and then we'll get our box ready. So I've got my zipper on here, and I get my slider. I always make it fairly straight across there. I kind of want to try Sarah's upside down method, but I won't put you through that. There we go. I'm going to even it up. And this one, my label usually goes right here, but I'm going to put it under the vinyl and just tack it there. Make sure there's no threads on this. If your zipper is narrower, you're probably going to need to trim away some of the fabric here because it'll be a little too tall. And I'm just going to tack all this together. I probably could have done that with my label. I'm going to tack it here on the ends just to hold it together. It's a little harder to bind when we don't have the stiffener, in my opinion. And now I'm going to bind the whole thing. So I'm going to go around the perimeter edge first. So let's see if we can think of an alternative for this. I could come up with an alternative, but it's a little too involved to explain. Bind. I always go from the back to the front. No one will see it back here. It'll be on the inside of the box, kind of, but you know, like it'll be facing the inside of the box. All right. So you can kind of see I got a little bit kind of funky there, right? Kind of funky there. That's okay. The curves, we just trim them to make them nice and smooth. So I'm just going to trim this down to match the binding with. I trim my corners, my curved corners, just a little bit under the seam allowance because the binding has to stretch a little bit around the corners. How are you guys doing? Do you need me to slow down or anything? Anybody doing this one? Now we pull this to the right side. And we just turn it under and top stitch down. Nobody will see this side, okay? They're only going to see this upper side here, right? I love this binding with this fabric. I never really liked this binding. And now I like it with this fabric. So I kind of pull. I'm not giving you super detailed binding instructions since I feel like I inundate you with those all the time. See it drawing up a little bit maybe. We'll try and combat that when we attach it to the box, but the binding is really what's doing that. So I'm just really gently going around those corners. So now we have this finished on this side. Okay, yeah, okay. Go ahead. I felt my machine do something funny right there and I can see some weird stitches. So I'm just gonna look at my bobbin. Oh yeah, I knew it. It always does that little hiccup right before it runs out. I had that much thread in there. See, this will give Christina some time. And anybody else. I have made a lot of notions cases, so it is one thing I am probably oversimplifying. All right, so now we have raw edges right here and here. So we need to bind that now. Yep, exactly, thread chicken 1. So I'm gonna hang off about an inch on the end here. We're just gonna sew this right side to wrong side. You might need to shift your slider out of the way. You'll notice I never switched to a zipper foot, and it's just because my zipper tape is really wide, and then I can move the zipper out of the way if it's hanging up. And again, leave your inch at this end here. We will do the fussy folding on this. So here we are. It looks like this. Okay. And then I find really 3/4 of an inch is kind of better. Okay, so now this is how I fold this. So I let this continue the fold here, right? Like it's just wants to do this right here because it's already sewn here, right? So now I'm going to fold it toward the case, okay? I'm holding it there. And now I'm going to turn down this tip to meet the top of the tape, just a little corner fold. So now you could do just this, like fold it, and stitch it. But the problem is you can see this little inside wants to peek out. It just plagues you with little threads, right? So this is how we combat that. We're going to tuck that little bit. This is it. This is what wants to peek out. We fold it down, and now it won't be exposed. And now you can just fold to the top again of the zipper tape and fold again. See, I have a little diagonal right here. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. This will be easier. Okay, so let's get rid of these little threads so they're not distracting. Okay. So now this is naturally folding up. That's great. We like that. We fold this onto the case, and I fold it just past the seam that I just sewed right there. And like I said before, and a lot of people will just go like this. And what happens is this little tail right here, it pokes out, and eventually you get this weird little raw tail sitting there, and it'll get thready, right? So I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. So I just learned to fold this corner down. That's it. That's all you have to do different. That's what tucks it in there and kind of keeps it secure. So you fold that down, and now you can fold. So fold to the top of the zipper tape here. Sorry, my thumb gets in the way, like that. And then fold again. Now when I do this, do you see how I have this little messy bit poking out right there? That's good, because I'm going to show you how I get rid of that. I know that my fold is nice and tight when I can see a little bit of this first bit here. So now another thing you can do, this is so funny, I didn't sew it this way. Usually when I sew this in the first place, I will fold it back on itself like this. Oh, sorry, like that. So now if you want, you can do that. You can fold it back and sew it like that. And I'll show you which step that gets rid of. So we fold it like that, right? So now I pull this up, and it's already pre-folded right here. So now all we have to do, and I'm very gentle with this. I tend to, like I said, be a puller. And this is one thing where I have learned, when I pull, it works against me. Tighter is not better. The more relaxed it is, it kind of nestles into place a little better. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So when I pull it up like this and I pull it down, if I pull too hard like this, I get this weird little, weird little bump. This fabric looks so good in person, but on the camera, it's so hot, right? So what I've learned is be gentle about it. just fold this down so that it lines up with the zipper tape right there, right? And then fold this down to the top of the tape like that. And then fold again. Now, if I'm too tight, I'll get a weird point. Like, so can I even, like if I do this, that's what I get. I get this weird little tuck right there. And it's because I folded too much on this first one. So just relax it. Fold, fold, fold. Now, if your fabric is too thick, like you're using fabric that's a little harder to deal with, and you want to get rid of some of the bulk, this is where you trim it. You trim it right here. Just trim a little corner off. Don't go up to there. I mean, sometimes you can, but I guess you could. But yeah, you could with this. You could go up to there, but don't go any further past that. So just get rid of some of the bulk by like that, and then it'll help. All right, so now we can sew, all right? I've shown that to you ad nauseum now. All right, so now I've got it under the needle here. And remember how I said I had that weird little messy bit right there? This is how I combat that. Actually, I'm getting the other thing. Oh, and then if you see yourself getting this weird little thing there, this little double fold here, relax it. Lift it, fold it up higher above the zipper tape. So here's my fold, not lined up perfectly. I know all the ins and outs of this. Sorry, it's really boring probably to you. But I have figured out what happens and where I need to fix it by doing things like that. All right, so now to get rid of that weird little messy thing, I take my awl and I just shove it in there like this, best I can, and then I pull this over it. So I don't even need to start sewing in this little area here, just where I folded down. So it kind of gives it an extra edge of cleanliness, you know, cleanliness? Neatness. So now I'm going to just shove that in there. This one's particularly thready, so it's a little troublesome. Pull my awl down over it. And now you get a break. Now you can just turn this down and sew. Oh, I didn't sew with my machine first when I changed my bobbin. Shoot dang. I'm going to have thread vomit. Okay. And so now to do it on the other end. Oh, okay, good. Okay, sorry. I'm sure someone's like, ugh, can we just keep going? Okay, so now down here, you're going to do the same thing in reverse, right? So again, pull up, fold it toward the sewing right here. I already sewed it, right? And now fold it down toward the tape. And again, fold, fold. And it'll be a little easier to do the folding because it's already pre-folded in front of it. And then we continue. I have that little messy thing in there. I shove it in there, pull this down, cover it up. And there we go. Doesn't matter that I didn't land perfectly on the notion case this time because it's going to show on inside the project box. Okay. So, I have a thread tail right here, and now it is ready to attach to the project box, and then we can sew the project box. All right, how are we doing? All right, so I'll move these over here. So now okay, I have some cutting tips for your vinyl. I'm so sorry, it's kind of late. I'm gonna get my rotary knife. I'm gonna give you some cutting tips. I hate cutting these interior corners. Anybody else? All right. All right, so you see these interior corners. What you do is when you cut up into here, right, to where you need to now pivot and turn, the leg you just cut, I want you to fold that up, whatever one it is, and now fold it away like this, and then now you can cut again like this, right? And you can continue that, or usually what I do is I go both, and then I fold it away. And then that way you don't make a cut into the interior of your corner here, right here, see that? Look at perfect. No slit there. I get slits too, so I get it. This is kind of important with this bag because first of all, it only has a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So even if you nick in there 1/8 of an inch, you may end up having trouble with this later. And again, remember when I had to sew the bag when I get to this stage and I fold it up all the corners? If you have a nick there going in, you have to make this deeper. You're already in trimming mode then. So that's why it's really important not to get little slits there. And I get it, they happen. But I just thought I'd give you that little tip. I kind of wanted to give you a whole cutting thing yesterday, but I thought, I don't know if it's too much. All right, my other tip with cutting vinyl in particular is I don't bind the whole thing when we sew these. I only bind the horizontal seam here, and I don't bind here like we did the 4 seams at the end of the other one. We don't do that here. You don't have to bind anything. Vinyl does not unravel or fray. It just makes this end look nicer because we have zipper going into it. It is a nice little color hit, right, on the bag. So here's the other one. I go across here. So because of this, when you're tracing your marker on your vinyl, let's see, you only want to trace everywhere but these right here. You can use Sharpie everywhere but this. I'm pretty sure it's it. Did I say that right? No. Yeah. Yeah. So these right here, you don't want to do. I don't, but you can use, I have one. We'll see. I haven't done one on this machine, but my old one I didn't really need it when it was a little bit. You're only going to come in contact with the vinyl in your machine on these 2 seams here. So there's going to be 4 seams. So the only time we come in contact with vinyl only are these vertical seams. The other times the binding will be between us and the vinyl, so you're good, okay? Okay, so here we have our notions case, right? And here is our project box. So here are the rectangle cutouts, see them? And then here's the long straight edge here. You want this to fit in between these 2 rectangle cutouts here, like that. So just line it up, and then this is going to be the side of your bag. All right. I don't think you can erase Sharpie with alcohol. Not to mention like in production, we never wanted to do that. But you also don't want to damage the vinyl. So it depends. So right now, so there's Teflon throat plates and there's Teflon presser feet. And I always found that if you needed one, it was the foot, not the plate. In some cases, you might find you need the plate. It just depends. So another weird thing about sewing vinyl is if your feed dogs come up too high, they will scratch the vinyl. And mine kind of do. I can feel them right here. And that can be a problem. So you have to be careful, especially if you're production sewing. You need to make sure your feed dogs, because these things are sharp, they're not chewing up the vinyl underneath. So, and usually it's an issue when you're going over thicknesses because then there's more pressing down on the feed dogs. I can't talk right now. I'm so thirsty. Yeah, we had so many people would be like, oh my gosh, I wrote on my pattern holder with a Sharpie. I thought it was a wet erase marker. I'm like, oof. I don't know. We looked and looked. So I'm just going to center this in between. And once I start sewing, it'll be secure here. And I just start at the top. And I'm going to go around the perimeter outer edge here. And we're going to attach it. So I like to roll up the vinyl. So I'm going to roll this up so that it can go under the head of my machine. And be really careful. You don't want to fall off because vinyl. You know, and I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I did the other day. You can add this to a fabric box too. You don't have to do vinyl. I just wanted to give you 2 or 3 tutorials wrapped into 2 bags. A vinyl bag, a project box, and then a fabric box. So you can add this to a fabric bag. Don't do it to the inside. Don't be clever and put it on the inside. You'll never be able to access it. We tried. Here we go. Now, there we go. There's our all right. So now we're going to make our other components. So now we're in vinyl bag territory. If you're not doing the project box version with the notions case, all the rest of these steps are if you're just sewing a vinyl bag, okay? So we have our ribbon here, and our ribbon, we have our zipper, and I don't need a label, I already put one in right here. And we need binding and our vinyl piece here. So first thing I'm gonna do is bind my little end here. So I hang it off a little bit. Here, maybe I'll put it so that you can see it on top here. It doesn't need to hang off that much. I'm exaggerating, but minimal ½ inch. We'll do an inch. And now we'll finish binding it. You could do this lots of different ways. This is the way we came up with. And it was an invention of ours. Like, no one else does this. You know, they probably had other cool things that they did, you know. All right, I trimmed it to be half as wide as my ribbon. Well, it was too long and now it's too short, but whatever, that's fine. As long as it can fit back here, right? We're good. And then now we're gonna bind the handle. So I just do this right sides together. So the things that our binding machine could do was this right here. And Rayanne, I think, I can't remember. I think we toyed with, oh, I just did it one at a time, but that's okay. So you know, you could put the ribbon through the machine with the binding, right? You could just put one long, you know, 10-yard piece of ribbon through the binding machine and then cut it to length. But I think there was a problem with that. I can't remember what it was. I'm wondering if because when we cut it eventually, since you're like basically putting live stitches at the end, it created more hassle for her. I don't know. Maybe she did do it that way. We had our own products. I sewed the pattern holders, the last steps of the project bag and the pocket bucket, and all the needle cases, the accordions, DPNs, interchangeable, all those. And a lot of the limited edition stuff, because it'd be like a production run of 100. They were kind of special, and it wasn't worth it for Rand to figure out what kookiness I had come up with that month. And she could just keep doing production. This is, do you see that bowing out right here? That's not good. That's not good binding application. So you know how I'm always saying how you want the seam allowance to fill up the binding inside, so we trim it to the width of the seam allowance? Well, this one here, when I did my first pass, I wasn't all the way on there. So that's how much ribbon is in there up to my nail. So this is all slack and loose. See? I hate that. So, cautionary tale. All right, so we have our 2 ribbons now. Now we're gonna bind our opening of our vinyl bag. Now we're gonna start from the wrong side up with our binding right side down. I'm going to cover up all that Sharpie there. So this is a step our binding machine could do. use my binding attachment today, but I kind of figured, I don't know, it's kind of cheaty. I wanted to give you some visuals if you're not. So now I'm just going to bind it to the right side. No one will see the underside, okay? So don't worry about it. Just make sure that you don't fall off onto the vinyl. You want to secure your binding down. And as long as the fold of your binding covers up that first seam, it'll look really nice. When you get to the end, if your machine is facing a wall, mine is empty there, but I know this from experience. The bag might hit the wall and then cause you to go off. So just be careful when you do these kind of stiff, long things. That might fight back at the end there. I think, Susan, are you here sewing this with me? I feel like you're keeping track of every time I don't backstitch right now. And it's a lot. So right now it would hit the wall and then push me off a little bit. So I keep my hand there to not let it do that. All right, so now we have our bag here. Look at that. It's looking nice and colorful. We're kind of defining it now. We can kind of see what's happening. And then we're going to add our zipper to it. And I just lay it on top. And I make sure my zipper doesn't poke below here. I want it to be obscured with the binding. Oh, and let me give you some tips. So if you don't want to, and I can actually show you how to do this. Let's say you have a zipper that maybe it's too short. Maybe it's brass and you don't want to bind through the end. We could make we could use the ribbon actually. The ribbon would be better. You could use the binding, but the binding's a little bit, no, I won't forget the slider. That one I won't forget. I'm actually pretty good about that one. So I'm going to cut some ribbon here. I think it's stiffer, which is nice. And I'm going to make a zipper sandwich. So I'm going to put my ribbon, which isn't quite the width of my zipper. It would have been more ideal. The binding is. I can't hold this in a straight. Here we go. We're going to sew it here. All right, I need to put my slider on. Okay, so if you want to edge stitch across the tape here, that'd be great. I'm not going to because it doesn't match. And once I get it all in there behind the binding, it'll be fine. All right, so now I need to determine how long I want this and how much zipper tape I want showing right there at the end. So let's just make it 1 inch there. All right, something like that. Like that. And then now this one over here, we'll cut the zipper. We'll cut the zipper to be shorter here. Zipper sandwich. I think this is a kind of an elegant way to finish the bottom of zippers. You'll see this in handbags. So if you're, got it, excited that someone came out with a new pattern and you have everything but the zipper and your zipper is like 2 inches too short and it doesn't hinder the opening that you need for that thing. You could make it longer by adding a little, you know, zipper thing. So now we want this to be the same length as our opening, right? So right there. I would definitely quadruple check something like this. There we go. And now we won't have to bind through our ribbon at the end there. All right, so now it's going to carry on as usual. Now I have my zipper assembly here, and then we'll lay it on here. Hopefully I can get this to cover up that jog. I want to make sure I don't. I keep wanting to hang it off, and I know I can't. I didn't really give myself that leeway. So now all I do is make sure my zipper doesn't sneak under the binding, like past it. And with this zipper by the yard, it's sort of the perfect width where your presser foot sticks to writing along it, kind of like a freeway or a slot car or something. All the way down. Getting that little thread tail. There we go. Right? And then now we're going to do it to this side. Oof. This is going to be kind of a pain. How did I do this before? Oh, I did it right sides together, didn't I? Oh. This is actually may not be possible. I mean, it's possible, but you're gonna really have to scrunch your vinyl up. So I think this zipper, this fabric tape idea might be better on a bag where you aren't doing vinyl, because one cool thing about doing the continuous zipper with vinyl is that I could pull off one side and attach both sides of my zippers to each of these, then zip it up, right? And with this right now, when I have to now go attach this, since the bag is also right side out, you know, maybe what I'll do is do it inside out. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, yeah, this is better. I'm gonna do this inside out, and that's because my bag needs to be inside out anyway for the next step. And this will be easier not having the whole bag sitting underneath my work while I'm sewing. So let's just try it. This is an experiment. Learn from me. But see, the other bag, remember, I could scrunch it up as I sewed, and this one's a lot harder because it's vinyl. You don't really want to scrunch your vinyl up too much. Some are more forgiving than others. Some are not forgiving at all, right? I don't also want it to get off. So I'm just gonna clip it as if that's gonna help. It probably won't. Yeah, maybe the tape idea isn't so clever. You just never know. Perfect example of, this is what I call dreaming in your sleep. When you're laying in bed designing things, you're like, there's nothing that could go wrong with that. And then you go and do it and you're like, oh, how could I not have thought of that? I'm sort of fighting to keep the length. The zipper tape is ooching. I don't want a wonky bag. Be a little easier if I didn't have to fight the ooch. But there's a lot of ooch. Why is there so much ooch? Oh man, there's a lot of ooch. Oh, can I fix that? I don't think I can fix that. We may be ripping. We are ripping for sure. Okay, let's see. See how bad it is. Don't get impatient with this right here. Don't scratch it on your zipper, on your feed dogs. Oh, look at that ooch. This is what I'm dealing with. That's a torqued bag. Let's see. Why are both ends off? Like I started this one to... Oh, I know why. I lined up the zipper tape. Okay. I mean the ribbon. That's okay. Then that's okay. I know it's fixable. Easily fixable. So we'll just fix it. Shoot dang. Give you time to catch up. Or pass me. I was going to try and rip it, but I was like, you know what? Let's just not. Maybe we shouldn't flirt with fate. All right. Well, at least we know we can attach it with the zipper at the end. Not ideal. Never would do it in production. But it gives you some options if you're really uncomfortable with sewing through the zipper or binding it, you know. Because it's just every machine's kind of different. The technical terms. Oh, the ooch. You guys really give me a hard time for my words, but doesn't everybody talk like that? Like, I'm not a news reporter. You know what I mean? That's all that matters with language. All right. As long as you understand, right? We just say no to ooching and torquing around here. Oh, man. That was my seam ripper. Let me get rid of all these threads here. Yeah, ooch. We don't like our pants ooching. We don't like anything ooching. Except when our, you know, our puppy ooches closer to us. We like that, right? Or our kitty. That's okay. Okay. This is a really good place for that tool that I have that has the end that picks up the threads. Okay. Get rid of them all. I'm kind of diligent about this. So, how I went wrong was because I remember I was like, okay, I got to make sure I line this up. Well, I did, but I lined up the wrong one. And this one is, it's like 1/8 of an inch short. That's okay. So what we want is to get rid of this. That really threw me off. I do too, Elizabeth. I think it's really interesting. You know, and it's funny because now that I'm working in this fitting community helping people, I am catching some of the things I say and I'm like, maybe I should re-record that. Because like the other day, I didn't even think about it. And I wrote, okay, so what I can do in there is my iPad has a program called Procreate and I can draw in there and record my voice as I'm drawing. It doesn't show me, it just shows what's on the screen. It's awesome. And I didn't even know it did this microphone feature. I think it's kind of new. And so I was a person wearing shorts and her shorts were kind of going whoop at the bottom. And I was like, all right, do you see this little whoop-de-doo right here? We want to get rid of this. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to pull it up right here and it's going to calm this down. And then I swiped and I showed the front. I'm like, here we go. Here's that whoop-de-doo again. We don't like that. And her reply was, that whoop-de-doo was me being lazy. I was like, I was not. I am so sorry. I was not commenting on your sewing at all. I thought this was a fitting issue. I felt a little bad that I had used such casual terminology. I get a little lost in the weeds sometimes, you know. Okay. All right, so vinyl lines up to vinyl. That is the most important thing right here, right? Vinyl across vinyl. So let me get rid of this so you can see that. That's what's happening. Aren't you glad I'm not a primarily vinyl sewing streamer? You'd never see anything I'm making. All right, so now we can do this better this time. No ooching. My back stitch right there, I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Y'all are so quiet. I think the people who are sewing are just like racing. I bet you guys are like, oh good, you made a mistake. I know these guys. Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, exactly. As long as you guys know what you're both talking about. Okay, I need to get this in a better position. The thing about vinyl, this vinyl is exceptional stuff. I will say, this particular one is very great. You don't want points. Like, you see how that right there is becoming a point right there? You don't want points digging in. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Terry. Oh, you're back, Elena? Awesome. Some threads there. Once we do this, it's a few short steps to go. So the countdown's on if you're keeping up. Why is this harder this time? When I get into these things like this, I just think, just focus on the 1 inch in front of me. I don't know if I spit or that was a thread. There's a lot of threads flying around. Just focus on the 1 inch in front of your presser foot and then arrange, you know? Just keep. I'm hitting my back. I have a back stitch right here. So occasionally, that is one of the drawbacks of having it right there, is that you will, sometimes the bag will hook onto it. That's no bueno when that happens. Trust me on that. I have this one bag where the strap, no matter what I do, it grabs that thing and then it starts reversing. It's kind of dangerous. Look at all the knitters. Yeah, I think Christine is probably going to catch up. She'll probably surpass me. Okay, that's pretty good. This is acceptable. This is acceptable. I can deal with that. I mean, whatever. I mean, my ribbon isn't even... Oh, yeah, well, it was on there. Okay, well, it's not great. Not great. We learned. Yeah, exactly, Terry. Oh, man, no kidding. Putting the placket on your sleeve, especially if it's flat felled. Or how about accidentally flat felling your side seam and your underarm seam, and then you have to flat fill the sleeve onto the body. You're like, serger's sounding pretty good right now. Okay, so now we want to put our little pole here across the zipper. So here's the top. Here's my pole going that direction. So I put it down here. And we can just, as long as, you can put it anywhere you want. Now, this is all finished. We just don't want this too close to the seam down here. So it's not in our way, but it shouldn't be in your way, no matter where. And we're going to... This is a pole thing, so you want to double stitch it. I sometimes lift this up too and make sure these folded ends are still tucked in there nicely. If you're worried about thicknesses, don't put your finger too close, because sometimes what will happen is it'll jog over to get off of the thickness. You don't want that, right? Okay. Without this little cream stitching here, I think that'll look okay. It's kind of interesting to me. You know, yay, Terry, woo-woo, that's awesome. Yeah, focus on the next inch for everything, right? Okay, so now we're going to put our long ends together. These right here, the longer, not these guys, right? So the bag is still right sides together. See if you can see a little better. So it's folded like that and like that, right? And we're going to put these two together. It's going to pull if you have the Notions case. And we're going to use binding here because this does finish this edge right here. We do the handle in the vertical seams. I think that some binding machines would do this. Ours wouldn't. It wouldn't go through the zipper. It would have gone through it being ribbon, you know. I want to make sure. Oh, make sure your zipper, if you need to crack it open just a little bit, right? Make sure you can do that because you'll be sad if you can't. And I'm just looking just to make sure I don't have any stitches showing. Because remember, I stay stitched down there, took my ribbon together. I don't want that to show. So I'm just checking it out. And then if it needs to trim, I think I can get away with this width here, and we'll sew it. And then get all these little threads clear, like into the seam allowance or trimmed. Pull them over there. You don't want them sneaking out. Makes your stuff look not well sewn. Okay, it's too wide. I have to trim it. Some of the funnier interactions we had, like for customer service, my goal was to not get any emails at all. Like I didn't, and so like there was a couple of times where all of a sudden not all of a sudden, but we would just get a lot of emails about like the magnets on the pattern holder. People would be like, mine doesn't have magnets, but they're so tiny. Remember I showed you, like they're super, super tiny. And they just couldn't see them in the pattern holder. And I would say, this is where they are, right? And then the other thing was folding it. And I would spend time, like once or twice a week, explaining this. And so that was not okay. So finally, when I had a moment, I made a video in the description of the pattern holder. And I stopped getting emails. It was really great. But sometimes you would get kind of funny ones, like when people would argue with me about their zipper being broken. And it was because, how did this one come out? Oh no. You see how this zipper right here, oh, it's not like that anymore. When the zipper slider can be in the middle of the zipper and it's closed above and below it, that sometimes really threw people off. Like even in my booth, I heard one woman saying, some of this stuff is really badly sewn. Look, the zipper's closed on both ends. And they don't know. They didn't know that's what it looks like. And I'd say, oh, I just heard what you said, but I just want to show you that it just has never been used. And they're like, oh, wow. And then after that, it doesn't have that effect. And I love the way that looks. I love it when the zipper's closed above and below. But not ideal, right? Not if someone doesn't understand it, you know. You don't want them to be like, oh. Because there is a lot of sewing at some of those shows where you're like, okay, I hate trimming this, but I'm going to do it. Not ideal. Wonky bag incoming. No, I think it'll be okay. The Notions case really fights you on this. The other thing I would get from customers was, because we finished our binding from the right side, they would sometimes see that the stitching, I don't know if I can imitate it on here, the stitching wouldn't show on both sides of the binding. So it looks like only from the right side you would see the stitching on the binding. And then on the wrong side, maybe it was in the ditch of the binding. So it looked like it was missed. And it was so hard to describe that via email. I would say, well, the thing is, you're right, we didn't catch it on the inside, but the inside doesn't show, so we don't prioritize the way that looks. but it was the first seam. The first seam was sewn on the inside, then it turns to the right side and it gets edge stitched down. So it's actually been sewn twice and it's very secure. But if they don't understand that, they're skeptical, you know? And it's kind of a hard place to start from with them. They don't believe you. So many people get junk that's handmade. It's obviously handmade. I don't know why I'm putting quotes on it. They're skeptical, and so you're sometimes kind of battling that. I'm going to get rid of these little threads here. Okay, so now here we are, right? I have one little boo-boo here. See that? That's when I sewed the zipper pull right here, this thing, it picked up the zipper tape and it triggers me and I'm just gonna let it go. All right, so we only have 4 seams left, no more binding, but we need to put our handle in there, which is, oh, here it is, with my seam ripper. Got our handle, and we want to put that at the top of the bag. So here's my slider pointing to the top here, right? And we're going to look at our corners here. Looks perfect. Look at that. So you want to slip this in here. And I push the seam away from the zipper, Wi-Fi'd it, and then make sure that it's perpendicular. And if you want, you can tack it down. So like I just kind of leave this little window open here and stitch it down there like that, right? And then do the same thing on this side, just to kind of give yourself a helping hand because you can't pin vinyl, right? And again, we want this perpendicular. Just arrange the bag if it's not behaving. Don't twist the handle. This pink and red combo is satisfying 8-year-old me. I really loved pink and red together, and yellow and orange together, and yellow and pink together, and orange and pink together. Those are the combos I loved. Okay, now we can just sew these ends together. We normally never would have tacked that, by the way, because it's more stitching showing, but we get a free pass today. And now we're just going to back stitch here at that corner, line all this up, make sure that handle is perpendicular. You can back stitch over it again if you want. Don't over back stitch your vinyl, you will be perforating it. We never did that, but you can if you want. All right, we'll just trim this so it looks a little neater. And now we'll do the same side here. Remember, your zipper's cracked open so that you'll be able to get into your bag, okay? So I just kind of start arranging it so that I can tell if anything's looking funky. So there we go. That looks good. Looks really good. I just sewed a 1/4 inch seam straight down. I'm sort of shocked this one matches so good, but the smaller one didn't. I thought maybe the other side will be a different story, but I actually thought it was going to give me more trouble because of the scaling. We don't have to bind anymore. So you get kind of a free pass. Like you have to bind the notions case, but you don't have to bind anything else extra. Oh, you do have to bind the opening. That's true. Okay, so this one here, same thing. So now you see how it's a little bit off right there? I'm just going to ignore that and go from here straight across it. So let's kind of arrange it so we make sure we don't force it into a shape. Like, I don't want to lie to myself and say, that looks fine. Yeah, that'll work. I can pull it down a little bit, pull this down that way a little bit. Trim all your threads. You don't want to go back in here. Trust me on that. Trim this. And then if you have any Sharpies showing from tracing your vinyl, trim it off now because it does show through the bag. It's really ugly. It looks amateurish. I never say that, but it does. I'm going to trim this down too. I don't usually like my seam allowances that small, but we're trimming off the Sharpie. It's more important. And also, you see how this little corner does that? I would trim that off too. Anything to remove doubt that your bag is not well sewn when you know it is well sewn. And it doesn't distort anything. Yeah, definitely. Even your sewing is marketing. All right, that's the last seam. You're all done. Just making it look nice. You can make a bunch of these for Christmas gifts or your next trip. You can make them a different shape for packing cubes. All right, now the hard part, turning it right side out. I hate this part. Rayanne did this. I never had to do this. Or we actually hired people to do tagging and things like that, and they would do this too. So I kind of like grab the corners a little bit. I'm try to be gentle. My vinyl is forgiving. I sort of kind of get it going before I do the last final push of turning it. So I just kind of ooch all the way around the bag, turning it. And now I try not to get these little corners a chance to get pokey. Now I'll start popping it all out. The other drawback with this is that it's hard on the hands to turn things like this. So when we would sew these, it would kind of be like a seasonal thing. We'd be like, okay, we're about to have these in stock. Because it is kind of hard on the body. And people don't really want to hear that. They don't want to hear a sob story. I know plenty of people do give sob stories though. It's crazy when I see people complaining about how hard it is to have a business and how hard it is to make things and make money. I'm like, but we would rarely ever say, we don't do this very much because it's really hard on our body. Like it's very hard on our hands. But we had a couple products that were really hard, and that was really important to me. I had been through hand therapy, so that was one of the reasons. Yeah, no worries, Aisha. Ooh, look at that. So cute. Fits perfect on there, 120%. All right. Let's take down the zoom a little bit. You have plenty of time, Aisha. Where did you get to? Easy to record two cameras, my butt. No, just teasing. Ta-da! Doo-doo-doo! Here's our little guy. This one feels so good with the canvas inside. Feels nice. Night, Sylvia. Thanks for cheering us on here. This one got off. Look at how narrow it is at the top. Big Kitty. I miss Big Kitty. These kitties aren't lined up very well, though. Maybe someone will want it. We'll hope. Let's hope so. I love the blue ribbon on this. Things you just don't get to see very often. And I do like the label there. I wonder if that's what we did. wonder if that's where we put it. I just don't remember. No, we put it on a vinyl bag. We put it sticking out from the seam, I think. I don't know. Yeah, like, isn't that, I know, that fabric was good. Sardines. Only if you knew it's sardines, right? I used to be one of those people that hated gold, like gold jewelry. And metallic fabrics, never my thing. But this one I liked, and my wedding ring, which I'm not wearing right now, is gold. I've kind of come around to it. It's just another thing. Yeah, no problem, Chippy. Have a good day. All right, you guys. Well, let me show you the travel bag I'm making tomorrow, and I'll let you guys go. So you can kind of see it in person. I've been kind of teasing this. All right, so this was a bag that was a limited edition thing. I only want to put out 2 more patterns for sure. One is that Quickie tool case, which is almost done. It'll be out next month, I think. And then this one here. This is a travel bag that we did as a limited edition thing. Let me turn up the brightness just a tad. So we did this year of things called egg crates. And the May one was a travel theme. And so the closure is very simple. You need the loop lock and Velcro. So this is Velcro, and this is it. And it works great. I mean, it's just really easy. So this is a piece of ribbon sewn to the Velcro. There's lots of ways to do that. And this just hangs out of this decorative piece, which is not functional. Like, it's just decorative. There's a handle on top to be able to carry it. And then it opens up, and there's a hook here that's tethered, so it stays out of the way when you're using things. And then you can hang it up, you know, like this at your hotel on either the shower door or the robe hook or behind the door, right? And then it has, from the top, it has 2 pockets. One here, and that's behind this one here. So let me pull it up a little bit. So this is a double pocket here and here. Because you can do that with vinyl, you know, like it's kind of clever. I think, how is this done actually? Oh yeah, so this zipper has binding on it, and then this zipper is sewn behind it. And that's the little loop for the hook right there. This is just a piece of elastic, so you don't have to be perfectly precise on the length of this. And then this is a retired pattern hook, which I just give away free on my website, but they're cheap. You can get a dozen for $4. So maybe you guys could go in on them. Oh, I'm itchy. And then this particular thing came with a sewing kit that we made. It has a little sewing kit inside with a little felt thing. And then down here is another pocket, and I sewed it with 2 sections. So these are hair things in mine, right? So you can do a whole long pocket even like this and then sew straight through it. And now you have 2 pockets, right? As long as you stop right there, you can still use 1 zipper for 2 pockets. And then down here is kind of the big compartment area. It comes with this little bag. And this would be like, say your shower isn't in the same bathroom. Like that happens, especially in certain places where you share like a same, like in a bed and breakfast. You can just bring your shampoo and stuff in this. And then this was, I put Cordura in mine, so it's waterproof and still it had cute fabric on the outside. And then there's a little pocket right here on the front, also zippered vinyl, right? There's only a few hits of the fabric, the print, and the rest of this is 500 denier Cordura. And then in here, mine's hammered, by the way. I've been using this for years. This is a fabric pocket that has elasticized, and it's 3 pockets and an elasticized top. So you can put things like this in these pockets as well. Does this go in this? This might not. This might be too big, but like the deodorant does, your toothbrush. I have a folding brush in here. Unless I'm going on a road trip, I don't bring my real brush. And then you could put your shampoo and stuff in there. Because I don't bring my full bottles, but so if you bring your full bottles, you might want something a little larger. I use this thing. Get rid of my hair in there. I use these and I put them in here. like that. And then I put this inside here, but you could put bigger things in there. And then, yeah, the whole thing works really, it's one of the things I'm most proud of because it works really, really good. And I kind of based it on a few different travel bags I had. Now it doesn't zip closed here. It does need to stay mostly upright, but I put this in my suitcase like this and it's fine. And I used Cordura so that it can get wet. Something can explode in here, that's fine. There's just a little few decorative elements on it. So I'm gonna try and make one of these tomorrow. It's been a minute since I'd done that. So we'll see how that goes because I feel like it's kind of a lot. But I love the way this sews together. It seems like it's kind of hard, right? But look, this is all flat. There's a lot of binding. I know. What do you expect from me? All this is flat though. Once you bind all these pieces, you just lay it on there and top stitch it down. That's it. You just lay it on there and top stitch it down. Same with the elastic pocket. It goes on this back piece. And then this front piece right here is flat and you attach this pocket on there. Then you bind this opening here. You make the corners, the gussets. And then you lay this on top. You put this interior on top of this exterior because these are two different pieces. You put this on here and you bind the perimeter. Boom. I don't have it cut, but I will have it cut before tomorrow. I'm not going to cut and sew the whole thing tomorrow. Is that all right? Or are you interested in the cutting? I know, this is fabric cute. This is Sarah Watts. Elena was saying that today how she fangirls over a couple of fabric things. So do I. Thanks, Allie. Yeah, you're welcome. You're just wondering, yeah, no, I'm going to pre-cut it out. I asked Cricket if she wants one, and she said yeah, so I gave her some options. I'm going to cut it out. I was going to try and enlarge it, but I think I'm just going to sew it together, see how it goes, see if I want to change something, talk with you guys about the features. Look at your travel bags. Tell me what you like and what you don't like. See you, Hillary. And then we can decide. I like this. This pocket here is kind of concealed. You know, it's way back behind this one. This is my first aid one. This back here will be things I don't use. I'll put medicine back there, like emergency medicines back there, hair things, things I want to grab easily. My most used things are right here. As long as you have a hook, it works really good. So there's like 1, 2, I don't know if you want to call this 3 or 4, 5, and then 5 pockets, and then these 3 here, and the main compartment, and the bag. You could add one to the outside. You could make this a pocket and put one back here too. So there's some potential. As long as you like binding. I feel like I'm trying to hypnotize you with binding. Right, Elena? Same. Yeah, hands down. I love those gals. Oh, this is a long stream. And if you're not up for this tomorrow, next week is surgery week. There's only 5 more streams left in May. Next week is only 4. 1 tomorrow. See ya, Aisha. So, home stretch. I may not stream in June. I really want to play with my new computer, which right now I'm going to go put together. So, bye. I'm going to see you later. Bye, bye, bye.